The message that destroyed everything. For 6 years, I believed my marriage was solid. Not perfect. Not some fairy tale romance from a movie. But real. Ryan and I had survived financial struggles, job changes, arguments about stupid things like dishes and vacations, and all the normal ups and downs couples face. Every challenge seemed to make us stronger. Or at least, that's what I thought. Then my sister came back. Star had always been the favorite child. Growing up, she could do no wrong in my parents' eyes. If she got into trouble, someone else was blamed. If she made a mistake, there was always an excuse. When she moved to Florida at 18, I honestly felt relieved. The distance made family gatherings peaceful. Then 8 months ago, she announced she was moving home. My mother was ecstatic. "Your sister needs family right now," Mom said. "I expect you to help her settle in." And because I was always the responsible daughter, I did. I helped Star find an apartment. I helped her move furniture. I even introduced her to Ryan's friends so she'd have a social circle. Looking back now, I practically handed her the knife she used to stab me in the back. At first, everything seemed normal. Star would come over for dinner once or twice a week. Ryan and her got along well, but I wasn't worried. Why would I be? She was my sister. He was my husband. The people I trusted most. Then little things started happening. Ryan suddenly became protective of his phone. He started taking calls outside. He changed his password after years of using the same one. Whenever I asked what was wrong, he'd smile and tell me I was imagining things. "Work stress," he'd say. And because I loved him, I believed him. The first real warning came during my birthday dinner. We were all sitting around the table when I noticed Star laughing at something on her phone. A second later, Ryan's phone buzzed. He looked down, smiled, and quickly locked the screen. My stomach twisted. It was probably nothing. But for the first time in 6 years, I felt something I had never felt before. Suspicion. That night, while Ryan was asleep, I stared at the ceiling for hours. I hated myself for doubting him. I hated myself even more for noticing that his phone never left his side anymore. Days turned into weeks. The strange behavior continued. Then one afternoon, everything changed. I was grocery shopping when I realized I'd forgotten my wallet at home. I drove back unexpectedly. Ryan was supposed to be at work. The house should have been empty. As I walked through the front door, I heard voices upstairs. A man's voice. A woman's voice. Laughter. My heart started racing. Slowly, I climbed the stairs. Every step felt heavier than the last. I reached the hallway. And then I heard it. My sister's voice. Soft. Flirtatious. Intimate. The kind of voice a woman uses when she's talking to someone she wants. The bedroom door was slightly open. I moved closer. Closer. And then I looked inside. The grocery bags slipped from my hands. Eggs shattered across the floor. Milk exploded everywhere. Neither of them noticed. Because my husband and my sister were too busy kissing. The betrayal ran deeper than I imagined. The sound of the grocery bags hitting the floor finally got their attention. Ryan froze. Star jumped away from him so fast she nearly tripped over the edge of the bed. For a few seconds, nobody spoke. Nobody moved. The entire room felt frozen in time. Ryan's face lost all color. "Emily," he whispered. I couldn't breathe. 6 years. 6 years of love, trust, sacrifice, and loyalty. Gone in a single moment. I kept staring at them, hoping my eyes were lying to me. Hoping this was some horrible misunderstanding. But there was no misunderstanding. My husband was standing in our bedroom. And my sister's lipstick was smeared across his mouth. How long? I finally asked. Neither answered. How long? Ryan looked at the floor. That was answer enough. But then Star crossed her arms. And instead of looking ashamed, she looked annoyed. Like I was the problem. Like I had interrupted something important. We weren't planning on telling you like this, she said coldly. I blinked. What? Ryan immediately looked at her. Star, stop. No, she snapped. Then she looked directly at me. You deserve the truth. I felt my stomach drop. Because there was something in her voice. Something cruel. Something confident. The voice of someone who thought she had won. Ryan loves me, she said. The room started spinning. What are you talking about? She laughed. Actually laughed. He should have been with me from the beginning. Ryan buried his face in his hands. Star, please. But she wasn't done. You're always the safe choice, Emily. Every word felt like a knife. Mom and Dad always knew you were the responsible one. The boring one. The dependable one. Tears burned my eyes. But people don't fall in love with dependable, she continued. They fall in love with excitement. I stared at her. This wasn't just an affair. This wasn't a mistake. She had wanted this. Maybe for months. Maybe longer. Then Ryan finally spoke. That's not true. For a split second, I felt relief. Maybe he was going to defend me. Maybe he was finally going to act like the man I married. Instead, he said something even worse. I never wanted to hurt you. The words crushed whatever hope I had left. Because he wasn't denying it. He wasn't fighting for us. He was apologizing for getting caught. I looked at him and suddenly realized something. I didn't know this man anymore. The Ryan I loved would never have done this. The Ryan standing in front of me was a stranger. I turned around and walked out. Neither of them followed. Neither of them stopped me. That hurt more than anything. I drove to my best friend Sarah's house. The moment she opened the door and saw my face, she knew. Oh my God, she whispered. I collapsed into her arms. And for the first time since walking into that bedroom, I cried. Hours later, after I'd told her everything, my phone started exploding. Texts. Calls. Voicemails. Not from Ryan. Not from Star. From my parents. And when I listened to the first voicemail, my entire world shattered again. Because they already knew. They chose her. I listened to the voicemail 3 times. Each time, it hurt more. Emily, sweetheart, please don't overreact, my mother said. Come home so we can talk about this like adults. Don't overreact. I had just caught my husband cheating with my sister. What exactly was the appropriate reaction? My hands were shaking as I called her back. She answered immediately. Thank goodness, she sighed. Mom. I said quietly. How long have you known? There was silence. Then she said the words that destroyed what little faith I still had in my family. A few months. I felt sick. A few months. Emily, it's complicated. No. It's not complicated. Sarah was sitting beside me on the couch, listening as my voice grew louder. You knew my husband was sleeping with my sister and you didn't tell me? My mother sighed dramatically. As if I was the difficult one. We were trying to avoid hurting you. I laughed. A bitter, broken laugh. You were trying to avoid hurting me? Star was going through a difficult time after moving back. Ryan was confused. We thought it would work itself out. Work itself out. Like my marriage was some minor inconvenience. Like my life wasn't being destroyed. Then my father got on the phone. Emily, calm down. That only made me angrier. Yes. The room spun. Both of them. Both my parents had known. 4 months. Every family dinner. Every holiday. Every birthday celebration. They had smiled in my face while hiding the biggest betrayal of my life. Then my father said something I will never forget. Your sister needs support right now. I stared at the wall. Trying to process what I had just heard. What about me? Silence. That silence told me everything. For my entire life, Star had come first. Not me. Never me. Star broke rules. Star got second chances. Star made selfish choices. And somehow everyone else was expected to clean up the mess. I was just the reliable daughter. The backup plan. The one who would always forgive. Until now. Let me ask you something, I said. If Ryan had cheated with anyone else, would you still be defending him? Neither answered. Because they knew the truth. The only reason they were protecting him was because the other woman was Star. My mother finally spoke. We just don't want this family torn apart. I almost laughed. The family was already torn apart. And they had chosen who mattered. It wasn't me. That evening, I made another phone call. To Ryan. He answered immediately. Emily, thank God. What do you want? I want to fix this. Fix this. The audacity. How long? I asked. His breathing stopped. Ryan. 7 months. 7 months. Nearly the entire time Star had been back in town. 7 months of lies. 7 months of sneaking around. 7 months of looking me in the eyes and pretending to love me. I felt strangely calm. The tears were gone. The shock was fading. All that remained was clarity. Don't contact me again. Emily, please. I'm filing for divorce. Then I hung up. For the first time in days, I felt something unexpected. Peace. Not happiness. Not relief. Just certainty. The marriage was over. The relationship with my sister was over. And deep down, I knew my relationship with my parents was probably over too. The next morning, I met with a divorce attorney. What I didn't know was that things were about to get even worse. Because later that afternoon, my lawyer uncovered something shocking. Ryan hadn't just betrayed me emotionally. He had betrayed me financially too. And the amount of money missing from our accounts left me speechless. The money trail. The next afternoon, I sat across from my attorney, exhausted and emotionally numb. I thought the worst was behind me. I was wrong. My lawyer slid a stack of bank statements across the desk. Have you looked closely at your joint accounts recently? She asked. I shook my head. No. Ryan handled most of our finances. Her expression immediately changed. And that's when I knew something was wrong. Emily, I think you need to prepare yourself. My stomach tightened. She pointed at a series of withdrawals. Credit card payments. Wire transfers. Luxury purchases. Vacation expenses. Designer stores. Restaurant bills. Month after month. The total sat at the bottom of the page. $83,427.16. I stared at the number. Certain I had read it incorrectly. What is this? My lawyer folded her hands. Money spent over the last 7 months. 7 months. The same length as the affair. My heart sank. No. She nodded. We traced several transactions directly to your sister. The room went silent. I felt physically ill. Ryan hadn't just cheated. He had used our savings to fund the affair. The savings account we'd spent years building. The money meant for a future house upgrade. Future children. Future security. Gone. Spent on Star. The receipts were everywhere. Hotel reservations. Plane tickets. Jewelry purchases. Spa weekends. Expensive handbags. One receipt alone showed nearly $9,000 spent during a weekend trip to Miami. A trip Ryan had claimed was a mandatory business conference. I remembered helping him pack. Kissing him goodbye. Telling him I was proud of how hard he worked. The memory made me want to throw up. My attorney looked sympathetic. The good news is this may help during divorce proceedings. Good news. What a strange phrase. There was no good news anymore. Only different levels of damage. That evening I confronted Ryan one final time. We met at a coffee shop halfway across town. The moment he sat down, he looked miserable. Dark circles under his eyes. Unshaven face. Wrinkled clothes. For a second, I almost felt sorry for him. Then I remembered the bank statements. The sympathy vanished. I placed copies of the documents on the table. His face immediately went pale. You used our savings. He didn't answer. You spent $80,000 on my sister. Still silence. Say something. Finally, he spoke. It wasn't supposed to happen like this. I laughed bitterly. That seemed to be his favorite sentence. Nothing was ever supposed to happen. Yet somehow it always did. I loved you, I said quietly. His eyes filled with tears. I know. No. I shook my head. You don't know. Because if he understood what love meant, none of this would have happened. He lowered his head. Then he said something that genuinely shocked me. Star wants us to go public. I blinked. What? She thinks now that everything's out in the open, we should stop hiding. For a moment, I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My marriage had barely ended. The divorce papers hadn't even been filed. And Star was already planning their grand debut. Like they were some romantic success story. Ryan looked ashamed. She's been pushing hard. I suddenly understood something. Ryan thought he had found freedom. Instead, he'd traded one life for another prison. And he was only beginning to realize it. 2 weeks later, Star posted photos of herself and Ryan together online. Smiling. Holding hands. Captioned. Sometimes true love finds its way. The backlash was immediate. Friends unfollowed them. They were disgusted. For the first time, Star wasn't receiving admiration. She was receiving consequences. And she hated every second of it. What happened next surprised everyone. Because within 3 months, their perfect relationship started falling apart. And the person who caused the biggest disaster was Star herself. The cracks begin to show. 3 months. That's all it took. 3 months for Ryan and Star's perfect love story to start collapsing. Meanwhile, my own life was slowly getting better. I had moved into a new apartment. Started therapy. Focused on work. For the first time in years, my life wasn't revolving around other people's problems. It wasn't easy. Some days were still painful. But I was healing. Then one evening, Sarah called me. "Have you heard what's happening with Ryan and Star?" I nearly laughed. "No. And honestly, I don't care." "Well, you're going to want to hear this." Apparently, once the excitement of the affair disappeared, reality moved in. Ryan quickly discovered that Star wasn't the carefree, exciting woman she'd pretended to be. She was demanding, controlling, and constantly unhappy. The same traits my parents had spent years excusing were now Ryan's problem. At first, he tried to make it work. He bought gifts, planned trips, paid bills, tried to keep her happy. Nothing worked. Because Star always wanted more. More attention. More money. More validation. More drama. No matter what Ryan gave her, it was never enough. Then came the first major fight. According to mutual friends, Star became furious when Ryan started worrying about finances. After all, most of the money they'd burned through during the affair was gone. The divorce settlement wasn't going in Ryan's favor. His legal fees were piling up. Reality was finally catching up with him. Star didn't like that. She had fallen in love with the version of Ryan who spent money without limits. Not the version who had consequences. The arguments became frequent. Then weekly. Then almost daily. But things got even worse. One afternoon, Ryan discovered something that completely changed their relationship. A secret. A very expensive secret. For years, Star had presented herself as successful, independent, financially secure. She constantly bragged about her time in Florida. The amazing job she'd had. The great lifestyle she'd built. It was all a lie. Ryan discovered she was buried in debt. Massive debt. Credit cards. Personal loans. Unpaid balances. Collections. Nearly 6 figures worth. The reason she'd moved back home wasn't because she missed family. She was broke. Completely broke. And suddenly, all those gifts Ryan had purchased started making sense. Star hadn't just wanted him. She'd needed him. When Ryan confronted her, the fight exploded. Friends later described screaming that could be heard from outside their apartment. Accusations. Insults. Threats. Everything came pouring out. And during that fight, Star revealed something shocking. Something Ryan never expected to hear. According to a mutual friend who witnessed part of the aftermath, Star screamed, "I never planned for this to become permanent. Ryan was stunned. What does that mean? Then came the sentence that destroyed whatever remained of their relationship. I only wanted to win. Win. Not love. Not commitment. Not a future. Just victory. For years, Star had competed with me. And taking my husband had been the ultimate prize. The moment she got him, the game was over. Ryan wasn't special anymore. He was simply the trophy she'd stolen. And trophies lose their value once they're sitting on the shelf. For the first time, Ryan finally understood what everyone else had missed. He hadn't been chosen because he was irreplaceable. He'd been chosen because he belonged to someone else. The great love story that had destroyed my marriage lasted less than 4 months. But the real twist came 6 months later. Because one rainy afternoon, there was a knock on my apartment door. I opened it. And standing there was someone I hadn't spoken to in nearly a year. My mother. She looked exhausted. Older. Broken. And the first words out of her mouth made my blood run cold. Emily, we need your help. The family comes crawling back. I stared at my mother in silence. For almost a year, she hadn't called. Hadn't apologized. Hadn't asked how I was doing. Now she was standing at my door asking for help. The irony wasn't lost on me. What do you want? I asked. Tears immediately filled her eyes. It's your father. I crossed my arms. What about him? My mother looked exhausted. Like someone carrying a burden she could no longer hide. After I cut contact, everything started falling apart. Star moved back into their house after Ryan left her. The constant arguments became unbearable. She demanded money. Refused to work consistently. Blamed everyone else for her problems. Meanwhile, Dad kept trying to protect her from consequences. Every debt. Every mistake. Every crisis. He paid for it. Until there was nothing left to give. Then came the final blow. My parents discovered Star had secretly taken out loans using information she had access to while living with them. The financial damage was devastating. The stress nearly destroyed my father. Now he was facing serious health problems, and for the first time, my parents realized something painful. The daughter they sacrificed everything for wasn't willing to sacrifice anything for them. She won't help us, my mother whispered. I wasn't surprised. People like Star rarely change. They simply run out of people to use. Then my mother started crying. Real crying. Not the dramatic kind. The broken kind. We failed you. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Those were the words I'd waited my entire life to hear. But strangely, they didn't bring satisfaction. Only sadness. Because some apologies arrived too late. I forgive you, I said quietly. Her face lifted. But forgiveness doesn't mean everything goes back to the way it was. The tears returned. She nodded. Deep down, she already knew. Some bridges can't be rebuilt after they've burned. A few weeks later, I visited my father. We talked. We cried. We made peace. Not because the past disappeared. But because carrying anger forever only hurts the person carrying it. As for Star, I never contacted her. And she never contacted me. For the first time in my life, there was peace in that distance. The best revenge. 2 years later, my life looked completely different. The divorce was finalized. The financial settlement was complete. I had rebuilt my savings. Bought a home of my own. And most importantly, I was happy. Genuinely happy. Not because Ryan and Star failed. Not because karma caught up to them. But because I finally learned something important. My happiness was never supposed to depend on other people. One afternoon, I ran into an old mutual friend. During the conversation, Ryan's name came up. Apparently, he had tried reaching out several times over the years. Letters. Emails. There was nothing left to say. The chapter was finished. As for Star, people occasionally mentioned her. Different jobs. Different relationships. Different problems. Always the same pattern. Always searching for someone else to blame. And for once, it wasn't my responsibility. That evening, I sat on my porch watching the sunset. Coffee in hand. Peace in my heart. The life I thought had been destroyed years ago had actually given me something better. Freedom. The affair that nearly ruined me became the event that forced me to build a stronger version of myself. Looking back, I realized something. Ryan and Star didn't steal my future. They removed themselves from it. And that turned out to be the greatest gift they ever gave me. The end. Moral: sometimes the worst betrayal becomes the beginning of your best chapter. The greatest revenge isn't getting even, it's building a life so good that you no longer care about the people